welcome to another episode of QTube. Right there. QReview, QTube. Welcome, and we have a fantastic special guest today, and our guest is a longtime friend of ours and has been on here before with Gregory Dillon, but this is him back himself, and today we have with us Yavin. Yavin, welcome.
Hi.
It looks very sunny where you are. Oh no, that's just lights behind you.
Well, yeah, lights. There's some sun
There's
as
some
well.
sun.
I have a window backing me up.
So we're chatting today because you are about to release the long-awaited video for your latest single, Hot, period.
Oh yeah.
I've seen it.
You have.
I have seen it. I'm super excited about this. So first of all, before I get into too much nitty-gritty, tell us about the video and how long did it take to make and where you made it and all that kind of stuff. All the little particulars that kind of go into it that end the story of the video.
Yeah. So I mean, Hot in itself is a song that's all about liking somebody that's way out of your league, and in like assessing that statement, it's kind of like it's a weird thing to say, right? Like to say that somebody is like out of your league, and it's like it's really pretty stupid. So I wanted to make a video that kind of took that story and turned it into something bigger and more special. Just kind of tackling the ways in which we as queer people, as a marginalized community, tend to marginalize our own community by telling certain people that they're not beautiful or that they can't be desirable and whatnot. So yeah, that was really the major concept that I had going into making the video. As far as how it came about, it was actually a pretty stressful process. I actually initially was scheduled to work with a team in New York that were actually going to come to Boston, and we were going to film something outdoors with a totally different treatment for the video. And then because the times that we're in are so wonderful, we had a COVID scare, and so we actually had to completely cancel the video shoot. And so I, not wanting to give up on the project, like had to literally throw together a completely different shoot in less than a week with a completely different production team. And I had to have some people who were going to be in the cast drop out, and so I had to recast some people and be happy with a smaller cast in general. But I was shocked and really proud of myself that I managed to actually like make it work and like in less than a week throw together something completely different. Luckily that team from New York, it still did post-production on it, so I was still able to work with them from afar. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy week, and I wasn't even sure if the video was going to happen.
It looks great. I would never have thought you would have gone through what you went through and the stress that was involved to pull it together, because it does look really good. It looks very clean. Sometimes, serendipity, happy accidents. I think what you've produced and what you have there is really good, especially for the song. So first of all, song-wise, I've always liked the song, and I thought the song was great from the first moment that I heard it. I love the message in it, but the message that's in there is super driven home with the video, and it's not done in a real shaking a finger kind of way. It's done in a very cheeky way. You have everyone in masks, and all of those masks say hot. And so I'm going to haul out my English degree from so many years ago to kind of really like pull back some layers, because not only do we always contact or say people are hot a lot of the times on their facial appearance, and you removed half of it. So we see the eyes and the top part of their heads and their face, but then you put them in a mask and they all say hot. So it's kind of like anybody can be hot. So I got really excited about that. Was that like a planned thing, or was that something kind of like as it was happening, you were kind of like, oh, this is on different levels here that this is kind of working?
Yeah, so it wasn't quite the intention for half the face to be covered in the way that you had interpreted it, but that's amazing that you did that. I definitely did want to have the masks say hot on it, to symbolize that everybody can be viewed as hot and can feel hot. And yeah, I mean, I could have very easily just had people come in with their own masks from home and, you know, done the thing with that. But I did want it to serve a larger purpose in that way.
I feel like it's a whole now. I feel like there needs to be a cult movement almost that everybody needs to just be walking around. If we all have to be walking around in masks, they all should be black and they all should say hot. I just feel like now that's just something that it needs to happen. That's just my own thing, I guess maybe.
Yeah.
But I do love how there's. I mean, that's kind of how I took it. Where I was listening to the song and I was kind of like, yeah, we do. You know, we look at people and we place ourselves against them based on a lot of the times their physicality. And in the right hands, in the right trainer, in some of our cases, everyone can look the same kind of body shape and be airbrushed within an inch of their lives and, you know, have their hair cut a certain way or have it styled and have it dyed and be spray tanned and whatnot. But in your video, you haven't just done body types, you've done skin color, you've done body sizes, you've done height, and you've done gender representation, which is something that I think that gets missed a lot, is just how broad the diversity is of the physical. And maybe it is a queer thing. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think that maybe we just tap into some different areas simply because of what we encounter, more so than and maybe just in a heterosexual world. But you've really broadened the scope of what that physicality, those different levels are. So, which I'm assuming is it was an on-purpose kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to make sure that, you know, everybody felt represented when they watched the video. Again, the cast was smaller than it was supposed to be, so there were actually even a few more people that I was supposed to have on it. Yeah. So the person who you know, was served as the trans representation in the video, is his name is Mateo, but he's also a drag king known as Travis T. And I had reached out to him and said, hey, I'm shooting this video and I'd love for you to be a part of it and, you know, represent the trans community and, you know, show that trans men are men and are just as, you know, integral to the queer community as anybody else. And
I've been hoping for one moment, you and me, between the sheets. I keep these daydreams in my head too long.
So the song, the video will be out. It looks really good. It has great representation in it. Why do you, and you know, you're young, well, you're younger than me. So when I say you're young, that's not an offensive thing.
yeah.
But you're younger and you are experiencing your early romantic life, I guess it's a way to put it. God, it sounds like I'm trying to dodge a question from my own child. You know, you're trying to you're trying to maneuver through the relationship world, and you know, you put yourself out there. Part of your world is to be on social media. And as I've talked to other artists and other friends, social media can be a real debilitating space to be when you have to spend a lot of time, because we're bombarded by what the world tells us is an ideal.
Yeah.
It seems to be even more ramped up for gay men. It's a real it's a bombardment. Well, that's a good way to put it. How do you, as somebody who is trying to kind of maneuver that world and dating and finding somebody and still be able to, because you have a very unique style and you're very you, and I think that's really good.
Thank you.
But it also, at the same time, must be a little a little frustrating and a little, how do you maneuver that? How do you keep yourself from, going off the edge and being like, I can't be these images? And how do you balance that?
Um, Honestly, like I don't really know how I balance it. I just kind of like take everything day by day. I am very fortunate in that I think I've come to a pretty good place in my life where I'm pretty at peace with who I am and what I look like. And, a lot of people aren't quite there yet. And it does take a lot of work. But yeah, I think it's just constant like reassurance and like, self-affirmations and whatnot, and just trying my best to be fearless. And sometimes like the best way to cope for me personally is to just like take things head on and to just like move through it. Like, feeling anxious about something, like I just do it and then try and jump over that ledge, head on type of thing is how I tend to deal with it. I don't know.
It, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, it wasn't easy when I was, in my 20s. And then at that point in time, we weren't, well, I mean, I also wasn't out, aware of myself. But I remember when I did come out and I started to kind of realize, what was changing for me, what was different, and who I was as a person. I started to look at things differently, and I started to notice how, when you're going out, and the club world is a horrible place to meet people. I mean, it's just grotesque. It's, meat markets. It doesn't matter if it's the straight world or the gay world. And you're out there and you're like, I have no game. Like I never ever did. And you feel like, I'm missing, like you're not part of the like if all the pieces of the puzzle have right angles, you're a circle, and you don't have, like, that's how I was, and I know that still kind of happens. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the video on a different level. And like I said, the song, messaging wise, is just amplified so much more. I think that having just that color background really works for it. And you're like, what's funny about this is that you're like the boy next door. And you've hit the video, not trying to be anybody else than who you are, which a lot of the times is, I'm off to camp. Is, you have your striped shirt and your hat and your shorts and like, I'm on my way. And I think that there's a lot of endearment in that, but it's also unapologetically you.
Thanks. Yeah, well, it's funny. I am a camp counselor, but no, I appreciate that very much. And it's actually like 5 out of the 6 people that were in that video are actually all people that I know from queer nightlife. And so like all of us, and actually the 6th person might even, I actually met them the day of the video shoot, but they probably also have a lot of experience in queer nightlife. And so it was very like, they all very much knew what we were doing by doing this video, because we are all no stranger to what it's like being in the club scenes and feeling a bit outcasted. I am no stranger to a nightclub. I, prior to COVID, would go to them all the time. And there were like 2 particular clubs in Boston that I would frequent, and one of them was the one that I would go to with like my more clubby friend group, where we would go out just to drink and dance and have a good time. And then there was like the drag spaces, and the more I got wrapped up in the drag spaces and like being around just like queer, creative, like very self-actualized people, the less I liked the more circuit clubs. And it was because when you're in these queer spaces with these drag performers who kind of go against everything that even our own community says that they should be, it's just amazing, because it's like a facet of nightlife that is welcoming and does feel safe, as opposed to these like, sardine can nightclubs where everybody is shirtless and, very in shape and fit and just like don't care about you if they looked at you for 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Like it's very different. But that it was really important to me to have used the people that I use in the video because we're all very familiar with what that's like.
Yeah,
So,
it's you know, it's I always referred to myself as you know, part of the island of misfit toys, where which I'm a-okay with. But people will be like, well, don't call yourself a misfit. And I'm like, no, I'm like, it's the analogy of it, of how everybody wants everything to look a certain way and fit into the same box. And then if you don't, you get to go to the island of misfit toys. But that's typically where the fun and the creativity and the magic happens. There's a current show that's out off of, I can't remember which channel it's on. I don't even know channels anymore. It's crazy. Called Brave New World. And it's
okay.
a takeoff of the book, but it is set in a way where everybody is, you know, in this new London and are all happy. They all take different colored pills to manage stress or emotions so that they all stay very even and it's all very happy and everybody looks good and everybody just kind of goes about their business and everybody's very smiley. And then you have the savage lands where, you know, all the other people are that don't fit into this and they live out there and they're terrible people and they're reckless and they're whatever, right? And it's just really interesting how we do that, where we categorize people like that and we allow it to happen to ourselves. And it's really, well, it's dangerous and it's harmful. So it's great to have those spaces, and it's great for people. And again, this is why this video to me resonates so much, is that a lot of people out there are trying to fit into these molds because they think that that's where acceptance lies. And then when you see a video like this, you realize, and hopefully for those people, they realize that, no, there are other options. There are other places. I can be something different and people will accept me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I'm glad that that's a takeaway. That's what you know, that's all I can hope for.
it's kind of like the weird situation of high school.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but we're adults.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting. I feel like I might have had this conversation with somebody recently, actually, but it's like in a lot of like queer spaces, it feels like sometimes we tend to like play out the high school experiences that we didn't quite have as adults. And you know what I mean? And it's like it's a bummer that it kind of comes to that as opposed to just trying to, you know, rise above it. But it's a very real thing, and it's pretty sad.
I was having this same similar question or conversation, I should say, just the other day, about how, and I think we see it more in men than we do women, but I also think there's a real weird thing that happens. We see it more in men than women because men who were gay and weren't out in high school or didn't have the ability to be out in high school, and even if they were out, it's not like the rest of the young gay guys were out as well, so they couldn't kind of go around with their scarlet G on their thing and felt like, oh, you. So they still were alone even if they were out. So they didn't get to date. They didn't get to have those, I'm going to the parties and I'm going to be making, I'm going to do something stupid. I'm going to have to fight with my boyfriend and everybody's going to be like, here they go again. They watched those experiences happen, but didn't get to have those experiences and didn't even get to see them on movies or TV. So then all of a sudden there is that feeling. And I think the older that you are sometimes, the more stronger that it is. But you know, there's this need, I think, to experience certain things, because in one sense we were never given them, or we, you know, lost the ability to get them. And at the same time, what I've seen recently too is that with queer men, why they're, you know, maybe a little bit more driven towards straight women is because those women had those experiences. But in that kind of movement, it seems like sometimes we neglect our queer women.
Yeah.
Much like
Big fan.
sometimes we neglect our queer trans, our
Yeah.
trans community. Um, yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that, but it's just kind of,
No, 100% hear you. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah.
but and again, these are things that when I see a video like this, these are the things that kind of come to mind simply because sometimes simpler is better. And not that there's anything simple about your video, because obviously you had a stressful time with it. But I think the ability to just have people, I love when there's two of you and it's a taller person who's kind of going around you and you're just kind of doing this,
Yeah.
hi, me. I love the flirtation, I
Yeah.
guess, that's in there, and it's so genuine.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make sure that I swooned over every single model exactly the same. You know, the first model in the video is my friend Chris. He's the stud with the muscles and the tattoos, and I wanted him to be first to kind of set up this idea that it was going to be one thing, and then as more people came in, it turned out to be another. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that everybody felt just as desired, you know.
And I think it works. I think you did a great job.
Thanks.
So okay, so let me get superficial for a second, because you
Sure.
make a video like this and you write a song called Hot, period.
Uh-huh.
Period. Um, what, I guess, for you is hot?
Honestly, my biggest thing is sense of humor. We have to have the same kind of sense of humor, because if we're not laughing at the same things, then it's just not going to work. And you also have to make me laugh instead of just me making you laugh. I love making people laugh, but please, I have to have a giggle myself. And yeah, I would say that, and just like um, people who like carry themselves with like a certain confidence, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like um because everybody's going to have their own insecurities and whatnot, but I think people who like feel very sure of themselves, I think that's really hot. You know, people who like have a certain like boldness to themselves. I'm really into that.
Good answer. Good answer, Yavin. And it's interesting because you will see that happen so much, and you're in music, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh God, the cliche is to ask anybody who's even remotely a personality, what do you look like for in a man? And, what's your type and style? It's like, oh my God, do they have a pulse? And, can they it's, it's interesting because entertainment in itself is like, outside of high school, we'll say entertainment is the industry that has got the chokehold on your personal, reflection, your personal self-esteem and confidence about who you are. So it's already, you're in a world where it's like, all right, I'm going in there. It's not like, I'm like, I'm going into the accounting world and, I know that there's going to be somebody who can wear a mean tie. No, but you're in music, you're in entertainment, and the visuals of it are always, they're so, prominent.
Mhm. Well, it's like, even though like my answer was nothing that involved physical characteristics, and that is my honest answer. That's not to say that at one point in time I had a different answer where it was like, oh yeah, like I love like really broad shoulders and I love a good set of pecs and whatnot. It's like, those were very real things that I used to hold to a higher standard, and it's something that you just kind of have to unlearn, because you kind of come to realize that like everything that we tend to be attracted to are things that we're told to be attracted to. And so once you kind of learn to unpack that stuff and realize that like there's more to it than just what you see, it tends to broaden your horizons, and you tend to find people attractive that you never would have found attractive before, because you're like, oh well, I actually do like this about people, and this person has those qualities, and so I'm attracted to that person.
When I was young, it was always about the fact that if they were the absolute worst person in the world for me, that was the attraction.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
oh,
Yeah.
like monster personality that no one wants to be around. Yeah, you're my person. You grow
I
as a
want that
person.
one.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You grow.
No, I'm not tall or tan. It's not easy for me to catch people's eyes, but I think I'm worth a chance. So come on over, give me a try.
So the video is coming out on October 13th, and which I can't believe we're talking about October, but
Yeah.
we will get through that piece of life. What's coming next?
So I've got this video, and then after that, I'm already working on new music. So that's happening. As far as the timeline for that, I'm not really sure. I find that like the further I've gotten along, the less I tend to stress about timelines because I would rather put out something that is really polished and that I'm really happy with, as opposed to just like rushing to put things out because oh, I gotta put out content, whatnot. So like moving too quickly with it, but hopefully you'll hear another single uh, and then another one after that. I've got a few things in the works, so you'll get them when you get them, but they're gonna be
That's
great.
that's all we can ask for, right? That's all we can ask for. I think that it brings up a real a noticeable trend. There are some artists who I think feel under the gun to get as much content out as possible. And what I think that, and not to speak for people or tell them what they need to do, but I really think artists need to take a little bit of a breather sometimes and realize there's ways to get content out without sacrificing your ideas for your music or rushing anything. And, I feel like the industry has made artists feel super anxious over because of streams, because of, just being able to be heard and get played. But I do think that there's a way to, I look at it a 2-month length. How can you get 2 months out of a song that you really, really worked on at a bare minimum? But I do know that as an artist, you must feel, and maybe you don't, maybe you've gotten to that place of peace, but I'm sure that there are artists who feel quite anxious about how do I stay in the eye and as a person of and an artist of interest
Yeah.
to my
I mean,
fan base that a lot of the times is quite fleeting. Like they move so
yeah.
quickly.
I mean, I think where I'm at right now is, first of all, like what is content, right? Like it's like you can be putting out content that doesn't necessarily need to be music, right? You can still keep yourself like in the conversation, whatever that means, without having to put out these like huge projects, right? And so it's like, just stay in there, and don't stress out about having to like put out huge bodies of work. And also like, you also have to think about the fact that like as independent artists, which are like, you know, um, there are so many of us now, it's like we're not these like major label artists that do have more of a reason to be like rushing to put out more content because they have a lot more at stake. As indie artists, like, people worry about like, with Spotify, a huge thing is like the monthly listener count, right? And it's like, oh, well, like my numbers are going down. And it's like, well, that's going to happen anyways, like you're going to get the most listeners when it comes out, and it'll stick around for a little bit, and then eventually it's going to go down because if you don't put anything out, it's just going to it's going to go down, and then it'll come back up once you put something new out. So it's like, don't stress too much about it. Like, put your stuff out, put out things that you're happy with, that represent you well, and just create because it makes you happy, and you know your repertoire will stay true to what it is.
Do you have artists in your circle, in your life, that you go to kind of help keep you grounded like that? Or do you have artists that come to you to help them keep you grounded?
Both, yeah. I would say my three biggest ones Actually, well, I'll say four. My three biggest like artist friends are Vardon Aurora. Him and I got very close over quarantine, actually. We talk like every day at this point, and so we both like bounce off our emotions about, the industry to each other. And he's been a huge help to me throughout the process with Hot. And also Zach Benson is an obvious one. That's my buddy. So we're always like sending each other stuff and talking about our projects. Another one is Gregory, of course. We always are bouncing emotions and projects off each other. And then my fourth one is a friend of mine who's not a musician, but is a photographer and creative named OJ Slaughter. They did my cover art for Growing Up and did a couple photo shoots of mine. And we've been friends for about a year now. And they just like, there's so much more experience than me. And so it's more so me going to them about my work and just being like, ugh, like, how do I deal with this? You know what I mean? And like, they're a huge help, and they're local. They live in Boston with me, and yeah, they're really great.
It's great to see artists supporting one another. The music industry can be really catty, and it can be really less than amicable at times. There's a lot of I got to get mine, but I'm finding that more and more so we're seeing artists coming together and supporting one another, and I think it's really good. I think it's great for. It's weird to talk this way because I know that you are new yourself into music in the sense that you're still playing around in different fields and whatnot, but you are kind of building the foundation and the structure for future artists to have a support system with what the current days artists are doing, independent artists are doing, and I think that that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. Like, I never would have imagined like the level of community that exists between all of us. Like, I named four people just now, but like I really have become buddies with like a lot of artists in general, no matter how close we are. Um, we are constantly like supporting each other and checking in on each other, and just privately reaching out and saying, hey, like, this is really amazing, like, this is really cool that what you did. And it's great. It really is very self-assuring, especially from people who are in the same field who do the same thing that you do. It's a huge help and definitely is fuel to keep going.
Cool. Well, listen, I can't wait for people to see the video. So if you're watching this, there's a good video coming. So you got to be prepared for it, and then you're going to watch it and stream it and do all those kinds of things. I find you to be, well, first of all, I think you're a delight anyway, and I just love the music that you do. I love the attention and care that you bring to your music, and I do like left of center kinds of approaches to music, and I really do feel like you have that. Melodically, it's always great, but it's just always just a little kick to the left or the right of quirk that I really appreciate, that you don't stick to certain tropes, I guess, or patterns and whatnot.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I worked really hard to get to that point where I could just kind of do what I do the way that I do it, and no way else than that. So
I am Yavin, and so be it. All right. Well, this has been fantastic, and I am going to return you to your life. And for those of you watching, again, this is Yavin. I'm pointing downward because I see him on the screen, but really, this is Yavin. And new song that's been out is called Hot. Period. And the video is coming out for Hot, and much more from Yavin. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see people's reaction to it, and I'm excited to send it to different folks who I know will appreciate it.
Yay. Yeah, me too. I have high hopes for the video. I sent out some pretty ambitious pitch emails today, so we'll see who bites.
All right. I'm so happy that you joined me, and we will talk to you very, very soon.
Yay, thank you. Thanks for having me. I had a really great time.
I've been hoping